So thanks everyone for joining us. I see a whole bunch of members, some familiar names on there as well. So good evening, everybody. And today we're going to be talking about, first of all, I'm going to introduce your host who will hopefully join us on the webinar shortly. And then we'll talk about all the things you need to know to get ready for your trip to Bali. Following that, I'll talk a little bit about your arrival to flying over. It's quite a long journey, as you have no doubt figured out. I'll touch on a few of the highlights of your trip. And then most importantly, I'm going to answer any questions that you have about this trip. So if you do have any questions, please do type them in either the chat box or the Q&A box, which you will find at the either at the bottom or the top of your screen, depending on what version of Zoom that you have. So let's jump right in. First of all, I'm delighted to introduce Mara Isaacson from a native Aussie. She has hosted numerous trips for us already and is really a delightful personality. You'll really enjoy her spirit. She actually was a tour leader for a US company in Australia years back, and we're delighted that she's come to us and occasionally hosts programs like this. Bali is, of course, relatively close to home for her compared to what it is for us, which of course is a long trip. So Mara will be there, and I just want to say a couple things about Mara's role as a host in case you haven't traveled with Wheel and Anchor before. If this is your first trip, our hosts are there first and foremost to make sure that you have a seamless experience the whole time that you're in Bali. So invariably, when you travel, problems can crop up. And Mara's job is to anticipate and alleviate any problems, often before you, as our guests, even are become aware of them. If you do have an issue, obviously your first point of contact is Mara, and so she will hopefully be able to resolve anything that might arise. But one thing that Mara is not is the local guide. So we have some wonderful local guides in Bali. We've used the same characters for the last number of years, and they are a lot of fun, and they'll give you some great insight into all the local cultures and traditions and customs and what life is like today in Indonesia. So those folks will have that job, whereas Mara is there to look after your well-being. So just to differentiate between what we call our host and our local guides. So let's jump in and talk a little bit about getting ready for your trip. Of course, the most important thing you need to have on hand is your passport. So if you haven't seen it recently, if you haven't been away for the holidays, you might want to make sure you know where it is. The valid for Indonesia, technically your passport must be valid for 6 months after the date that you enter in Indonesia. So as this trip starts at the beginning of February, count 6 months. So if you have any issue with that, then now is the time to sort of resolve it. I strongly recommend making a photograph of your passport or a photocopy for that matter. That way you have an extra copy of it, and you can just, once you arrive, stick it in the safe in the hotel. You never have to pay attention to it again. So that's what we recommend as far as that. And that frankly goes for any documents that you might have. You can certainly print out a copy of your e-ticket. It's not necessary anymore, but then again, if you're at the airport and there's a question regarding your booking, it's always nice to have that information on hand. I also suggest prescriptions, that you keep an extra copy of those on hand, and take all that stuff in your carry-on luggage. Again, if God forbid your luggage should get lost, your checked-in luggage, then at least you'll have your carry-on stuff with you. So just keep that in mind. I think it's now when you arrive to Bali, assuming you are just joining us for this program and you're not staying in Indonesia longer than 30 days, then you can simply get a so-called visa on arrival. The process is very simple. There's a desk there when you arrive into the airport. Says visa on arrival. It's what the vast majority of people who are eligible for that do. So it's pretty easy. It's a little piece of paper to fill in. There's also a customs paper to fill in. They like their paperwork in Southeast Asia. and then they'll stamp you in for the 30 days. If you are staying longer than 30 days, you do need to apply for a 60-day visa in advance. Now, you can extend your visa while you're there. That is possible. But, if you're already know you're going to be in Indonesia longer than 60 days, go to the website. It is in your pre-trip information documents, the ones that we sent out to you not that long ago, and you'll find there all of the information, the web link to get to apply for that e-visa. If we have anybody who's not carrying a Canadian passport, please double check with the Indonesian embassy website. But I don't think that's the case as far as I can see. That's about it as far as documents, pretty straightforward. Let's get into the packing requirements for this trip. We're going in the middle, well, Bali, as you can well imagine, being in the tropical zone just south of the equator, it's tropical, it's warm and humid all year round. The time of year that we're going is technically considered the rainy season, which goes sort of anywhere from November or early December all the way through till April. But our experience is it generally only rains if it rains. Sometimes it doesn't rain. It might rain for a couple hours a day, or you'll get a short cloud burst. I find it kind of refreshing, actually. It makes it a bit nice, and it also means it's the quieter season. Now, when you see the Bali traffic, you might not think that it's quiet, but relative to compared to the our summer season, which is of course winter in the southern hemisphere, that's a whole different game. So consider that you're going to have temperatures that are going to be in the mid-20s up into the low 30s. So it's going to be quite warm and quite humid. So you need to take clothes with you that you would wear in the summertime in Canada, or even lighter. So lightweight, breathable fabrics, cottons, linens, moisture wicking, particularly if you're out on excursions and you don't want to be all sort of, well, you're going to be sweating no matter what. So the one thing that we say here in the tropics is you let sweat be sweat. You just have to get used to it. And I know that we're not as used to it, but it's actually very healthy to perspire a lot. Our dress code for all of our trips, almost all of our trips, is very casual. So there's no fancy gatherings that you need to put in anything fancy for. But there are some nice restaurants, but you'll find that the whole vibe in Bali is very low key. It's very, very casual. Obviously, bring your swimwear, your beach cover-ups, that kind of thing for around the pool, for strolling down the promenade. It's a beautiful promenade in front of the hotel that runs the whole length of Sanur. And there's lots of spots to go in and grab a coffee or a bite to eat. Keep in mind, though, whenever you have these tropical spaces, you also have air conditioning. So sometimes the air conditioning can be quite chilly if they, even if it's 23, 24 degrees, that's going to be quite a drop if it's 10 degrees warmer outside. So I always like to take a day pack. It's a great idea, a very lightweight day pack. You don't need to sort of go crazy on that, as long as you have something to be able to carry, like a beach towel or sarong, or some light jacket, something to cover you up if you do end up in a restaurant or someplace that is a little bit chilly on the inside, because that's actually when you can catch a cold, is inside, not out. This is a Hindu island, as you're probably aware from all of your research and everything that we've explained to you. So there's numerous temples, beautiful temples on the island. It is important, though, that particularly for women, but for men as well, that you have a sarong to be able to cover yourself up from your shoulders all the way down to your knees. So the attire in visiting temples is always, just call it, more discreet. You can often borrow or rent a sarong at these temples, but honestly, I prefer to take my own, just because, I don't necessarily want to don someone else's used sarong. So keep that in mind. Obviously, footwear is key as well. When you're lounging around at the Maya Hotel, flip-flops, sandals are going to be the perfect footwear. As I say, there's a nice boardwalk there. But we are doing some of these visits to temples. You can still wear flip-flops for that kind of thing, because there's not, other than there being, some uneven, I mean, these are ancient structures, some uneven footpaths and stairs and so on and so forth. But something sturdier is also good, particularly for anybody that is planning to sign up for or has signed up for the Mount Batur hike. Then you definitely need more sturdy footwear. But honestly, probably whatever it is that you're wearing from Canada, that will suffice. I don't think you need tons of pairs of shoes for Bali. In fact, I would try to keep it light because there are a myriad of shops and so on. If for some reason you don't have something, trust me, you'll find it in Bali. Water shoes are not a bad idea as well. Because although it's a fairly sandy beach, there are bits of coral and so on as around. So I always think that having water shoes is a great idea to protect your feet from anything sharp that might be under the water. As I mentioned, because it is rainy season, do bring a light rain jacket, and I emphasize light, and maybe a folding umbrella. You can pick those things up there as well. But here's the thing. Tropical rains, when it rains, it rains. So you're going to get wet. But it's a warm rain because it's 30 degrees outside. So you're not likely going to be cold unless you go from outside to the inside. But I know that we tend to be a little more bothered by the rain. And so if you want to try and keep yourself dry, what the locals do is you'll see is they just pick up ponchos at the local convenience store. That might suffice for most of you rather than worrying about bringing any kind of rain jacket, because most of the stuff that we have at home is going to be too heavy. And you don't want that because otherwise you're just sweating. A dry towel or a sarong for beach use can be handy. Quite honestly, I'd buy one there, but if you happen to have one at home, you might want to tuck it in. Insect repellent is not a bad idea. I wouldn't say that it is terribly buggy there, but often at dusk, just like anywhere where it's warm, you may have some bitey things coming out, mosquitoes and so on. My recollection from having been in Bali last year was I didn't really notice any bugs at all. But some people are particularly susceptible to insect stings, so you might want to keep that in mind. Let's see. Yes, I see some questions that have come in. That's great. I'll address the questions at the end. So thanks for raising those questions. Do keep in mind, if you're joining us for the Komodo Island Extension Program, you're allowed one check bag of 20 kilograms only. So if you're planning on going down there and back and leaving, your long distance flight from Canada is likely to be 23 kilograms. So there's a bit of a gap there. And they may or may not be stingy on that flight, but I would err on the side of staying under that 20 kilograms if you are, unless you have some way to keep that extra weight. Of course, you can put it in your carry-on as well, but I always find it's best to try to not push the envelope too much on your luggage allowance. Oh, one more thing, electricity. So the voltage in Indonesia and Bali is 230 volts, and the outlets are similar. They have the round pins similar to what you'll find in Europe. So if you have a universal adapter, that should cover you for Bali. Otherwise, you can pick one up. And generally speaking, most of your appliances are going to be on dual voltage. So your phone, your camera, anything that's new, meaning in the last 10, 15 years, will accommodate voltage from home as well as the higher voltage in Bali. But if you have any appliances that you're bringing, when I'm talking about anything with a heating element, heating irons, hair dryers, and so on, sometimes they will take only 110 volts. So you just be mindful of that. So if it's anything other than sort of an electronics charger, I would have a look on the label or Google it and see what the voltage for that appliance is. And then if you do have something like that, the other thing is hearing aid chargers, we've heard, can sometimes also be only 110. So you don't want to blow up your hearing aid charger, I think. Yeah, you just don't want to blow up your hearing aid charger. I think that's about it as far as stuff to bring. Let's talk about money for a second. In Indonesia, the currency is the Indonesian rupiah, and there are jillions of them. I don't have the exchange rate in front of me here, but it's in your pre-trip information document. You're carrying around bills of 100,000, it's 10,000, 100,000. Yeah, it is the formal currency there. Now, credit cards can be used in pretty much any of the shops, restaurants, cafes, and so on, in any of the towns. So credit cards, like everywhere in the world, are pretty ubiquitous, but you're going to be visiting markets. You might want to make a tip here and there. So having some cash is advisable. But I don't think that you necessarily need tons of cash unless you're planning to buy a lot of things in the markets. So, if you pull out, let's say, $100 or $150 worth of rupiah, that should do the trick, and you should be able to use your credit card anywhere else. ATMs are practically everywhere. They're as ubiquitous as at home. So you can always get out some extra cash if need be. All that being said, we suggest the Wise Card again. This is the international prepaid debit credit card. It says Visa right on it. You can withdraw up to 350 Canadian dollars per month with no ATM fees on the bank card side. If the bank machine charges an ATM, well, there's nothing you can do about that anyway, no matter what card you use. My recollection in Indonesia is I think there is a small fee attached to withdrawals, but it's not too substantial. But the Wise Card means you can charge it up. You can put $1,000 on it, and convert some of that to rupiah, or you don't convert anything. Honestly, I often leave a balance just in Canadian dollars, because it will automatically convert when you either withdraw money or make a purchase at really the best possible rate. Yeah, we swear by Wise. We use it for practically all of our day-to-day transactions. It's really a traveler's gem. Talking about gratuities, so in the context of the program, all of your gratuities are looked after. So I'm talking about your guides and drivers and hotel personnel. Well, when I say hotel personnel, I mean the service charge that's included for the staff at the hotel, and any meals that we do as a group that are part of your program. All the tips are covered. Beyond that, you might want to have some money for tips. So, for example, your transfer driver that brings you from the airport to the hotel, because we're not there to give them a tip, you might want to give them a couple of dollars. And literally, like $1 or $2 is sufficient in that case. When you're dining at restaurants, tips are sometimes you'll see a spot for tips on the bill. Sometimes the service charge will be included. So be mindful of that. And check, when you go out for the first time for a cup of coffee or a bill, so that if the service charge is included, you don't need to add anything extra. But if you do, again, rounding up to a maximum of 10% is generally the practice there. So it's not like tipping at home these days. Let's talk about mobile communications for a second. Please bring your mobile phone. It's important because this is how we communicate with you when you're out and about, and we can get in touch with the group. There's so many good reasons to bring your phone with you, even though we're not necessarily encouraging that you're on your phone the whole time. But we will give you a physical SIM card when you arrive in Bali, or shortly after when you arrive. That's this little plastic bit here that fits into the side of your mobile phone. If you have that SIM card is a data SIM card, which will, just going to check if it's data. It may include local call. It will include local calls as well. So it's a data and local phone number for the duration of your stay in Bali. There should be plenty of data on it, so you can be online whenever you need to be online. And it's comforting when you're out, as I say, when you're out and about, to be able to get in touch with your host or fellow group members, or if you want to use Google Maps to navigate your way around. It's super handy. Now, please keep in mind, when you put in your local SIM card into your phone, we'll take your Canadian SIM card out. And when that card comes out, it means you can no longer receive phone calls or text messages on your Canadian number. So keep that in mind, that you can't, if you're somebody that's accustomed to texting with your friends and family and so on, that number will be out of commission until you put your Canadian SIM card back in. So keep that in mind. I would suggest in that instance, you let people back at home know to contact you on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or iMessage or There's a myriad of other, or email for that matter, there's a myriad of other ways that use data only, but text messaging is via the phone network as opposed to the data network. So just keep that in mind. I was going to say, if you have a brand new phone, so if you picked up a phone, the new iPhone or a new Android phone in the last year or so, some phones, the newest phones, don't actually take physical SIM cards. They only take what's called an eSIM card. We cannot provide you an eSIM card for various reasons, just logistically too challenging at this point. So you would need to get your own eSIM card. You can buy one online. There's a million different options. Our members seem to favor Airolo. I'll put that in the chat box. Just gonna type it in here, airolo.com. Oops, the autocorrect screws me up. So I put that in the chat box if you're looking for an eSIM. And of course, the advantage there is that you can buy an eSIM, upload it on your phone when you arrive in Bali. You activate it, and it's good to go from the moment that you land in the country. So that's the situation on eSIMs. Now, the reason for all of this is Telegram. Telegram is it's not ours, I wish it was ours, messaging app that we use to communicate with you through the duration of the trip. Telegram, you can download. There's a whole separate page that we provided with you in the information documents, which tells you how to download Telegram. Please do it before you leave home, just to make sure that it's set up, it's working, because perhaps the most important time that you need it is before you even get there, to be able to communicate with Mara if there is, for some reason, a delay or any issue that arises along the way. It's once you have it set up and running, it's pretty straightforward. If you're used to using WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, it works kind of exactly the same. So again, all the instructions are in there. If you find it challenging, honestly, go to YouTube, open YouTube on your computer, on your phone, and type in, do a search for set up Telegram, and you will find a dozen different instructional videos that will take you through that process step by step. Once you get used to it, honestly, it's great. You will get a broadcast message every evening from Mara that will summarize sort of what's happening the following day. If there's an excursion going on, who's going on it. If there's a meetup, like we call them mix and mingles now. If there's a little social event happening, that will all be communicated to you via Telegram. Similarly, we have a group chat there where you'll be able to talk amongst yourselves as the group members, saying, "Hey, I'm going for dinner down the road. I found this great shop that sells such and such." So it's really very handy. So get that set up and going. I'd like to touch on a couple of health protocols, if I may. Nothing significant here. The most important message that we want to convey is that if you're not feeling well, particularly if you have a symptom of a sneeze or a cough that develops during the trip or on your way there, please, in the confines of our trips or when you're together with our other members, please wear a mask. It's just the responsible thing to do in this day and age. And everybody really appreciates it, because, we've all had that experience of sitting next to someone on a plane or in a bus or somewhere that is hacking up a lung, and you're thinking to yourself, what has that person got? We just don't want to be that person. And so we please ask you to wear a mask, and let Mara know as well, so that she can just sort of manage the situation so everyone feels comfortable. That's just the appropriate thing to do. We ask as well, if you are a smoker, that you not smoke on any Wheel and Anchor sanctioned events or excursions or activities just around any other members. That's just a request from the majority of our members who are non-smokers. And if you suffer any injury or any minor accident, please let the host know. It's easy here. You'll find on the sidewalks in Bali, which are not as perfectly even as they are or they're supposed to be at home. You might stub your toe or get a minor bruise or a scrape. Please let us know, no matter how minor it is. We just want to make sure that that it's attended to in the appropriate way. This is a tropical climate. Even though most minor scratches and cuts can easily get infected. And so let Mara know, and we'll just make a decision on the spot as to what is the best way to handle that situation. So that's great. That's all about that. So here is the shot from the front of the hotel along the beachfront. You can't. The promenade runs. Let's see, is it on this side or on that side? Actually, the promenade that runs down the beach is on this side of the hotel, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, looking at this picture already makes me a little bit envious. So in the 24 hours before you depart for your trip, keep an eye on your email, because the airlines are generally pretty good at letting you know if there's going to be any delay with your departure flight. So knowing that in advance is very, very handy. Now, there's nothing that needs to be done if there's minor delays, but if you will miss a connecting flight, so let's say, for example, you're flying from Vancouver to Taipei and Taipei to Bali, or Hong Kong, or whatever your routing is to get there, and you are delayed and miss the connecting flight, so you aren't on the flight you're supposed to be on, then it is really important the moment that you can connect to the internet at the connecting city or wherever, or before you leave, if you already know that's going to happen before you leave Canada, please send a Telegram message to Mara, letting her know what's going on, whatever information you have at that point, just so that we don't have a transfer driver looking around the airport in Ballary wondering where you are when you're not there. And not to mention the fact that we can, if you are arriving on the first day of the trip, we can assist to make sure that the person comes back to the airport at the appropriate time. Obviously, if you're arriving in advance, then you'll have made your own transfer arrangements. Regardless, that's listed on your transfer voucher exactly what your arrangements are. But please let Mara know if you expect to be delayed. Listen, Bali is a big time difference, as you by now know, from Canada, and we want you to enjoy every single moment of your trip. So unless you are coming to Thailand beforehand and doing both trips, if you're coming right over from Canada, do consider using an app like timeshifter.com. I'll put that in the chat box as well. If all of this is in your pre-trip information documents as well, this helps to give you some practices in the days before you leave to adjust your body clock so that you have less jet lag when you get there, because you will be jet lagged. It's unavoidable. The time difference is anywhere between 13 and 16 hours between Canada and Bali. So it's just a good thing to do. Once you arrive into Bali Airport and you go through the visa and the immigration and the luggage and all the rest of it, when you come out, you will be met by someone with your name on a sign. Now, when you arrive in Bali Airport, there's kind of sort of different arrival areas. There's sort of like initial arrival area when you come out, and then you keep going, and there's another arrival area. So your driver will be in the final arrival area. You'll know it's a room with a big, tall ceiling, and there'll be lots of people waiting to pick up passengers arriving on various flights. So when you're in there, keep an eye peeled for the sign. There might be dozens or even hundreds of signs. Bali obviously is an important and popular destination. So this is where you have to take deep breaths and be patient. You will find them. We haven't lost anybody in Bali yet. So they are there. It's just a matter of finding them. So just sort of have a look around, and we'll make sure that you connect. If you have any issue at all, of course, again, you can connect into the Wi-Fi at the airport, send Mara a message, and she'll try to help facilitate that you connect with your transfer driver. But again, we haven't lost anybody yet, so you should be good to go. Just to review a little bit of the map of the island and where we are and where we're going. As you know, Bali is this small island here next to Java, to the east of Java, in this large archipelago of islands in Indonesia. As you know, it's a Hindu island, just like as the rest of Indonesia is, of course, Muslim. So Bali itself here, you can just see the corner of Bali. It's actually quite a large island. All of your activities are going to be focused down here on the eastern side, eastern and southeastern side. This is where all the activity is. All the way up to Ubud, you're going to see it's very built up. It's like one giant city. And then as you get beyond Ubud is when you get into the rice terraces, the Mount Batur, the volcano up here, further along Mount Agung, the other volcano, is all up in this area here. And the countryside is magnificent. I love Bali for this. You're going to be staying in Sanur down here on the eastern coast. We love this town. You know, every time we go to Bali, we think, oh, well, maybe we should stay somewhere else. This is the best place to stay because you are in relative proximity to Ubud, which is the sort of cultural capital of the island. And it's got a lovely beach, and the vibe is a little less hectic than some of the other parts. The most touristy parts of the island are right down here between the airport and Sanur, and it's crazy. And you'll get a sense of that as you go around on some of the excursions. And so that being said, the one thing that we have to caution you on, or caution, just you need to be patient in Bali. The traffic is not quite, it's very heavy, particularly in a car, because there's a jillion motorbikes driving around and the cars sometimes can't get ahead. So it takes a bit of time to get from one place to the next. And we've tried to adjust the excursions to sort of accommodate that so that you're not always sitting in the car. But particularly when you head up to some of the excursions like Mount Batur, this is a 2-hour drive. It should be 45 minutes, but it takes 2 hours. That's just how it is. And Ubud, same thing. It's a good hour away, and the traffic in and around there. But you're on holiday. There's no rush. You'll get there. But I just wanted to, have that in your mind, be prepared for it. And you'll see all when you arrive at the airport to get to the hotel, that is already 45-minute drive. If you're lucky, probably more like an hour to an hour and 15 minutes it's going to take to get from the airport to the hotel. For those of you heading over to the Komodo Islands, obviously these are further east. It's not a long flight. It's about a 50-minute flight from Bali over to Komodo. And you'll obviously be staying in Labuan Bajo and then head out to explore some of this incredible Komodo Islands National Park. Just going to touch on a few of the highlights from the itinerary. I'm not going to go through this in detail. Obviously, the food, the Balinese cooking is amazing. I love Indonesian food. I'm sure you will too. Oops. And so try some of the local dishes. At first, they may look a little bit strange. There'll be things you like. There'll be things you don't like. Either way, it's going to be an experience. Keep in mind, though, you can get all kinds of food: Italian, French, Chinese, Thai. In Bali, the range of cuisine is extensive. So, if for some reason you aren't as a big of a fan of Indonesian cuisine, don't worry, you'll get other things as well. You'll visit, I say, various temples, including Basaki, which I quite like. This is the water temple, and you'll have an opportunity to watch people doing the water ritual. And depending on time, you may even have time to participate in that. It'll just sort of depend on traffic and other factors. It's quite an amazing experience. Obviously, the rice terraces, which you'll see as you get away from Sanur and up towards Ubud, really, really magnificent. So there's an excursion that takes in that, and you'll understand a little bit about this very important industry in Bali. Heading down to the south, we'll make a visit to the Uluwatu Temple, which is down in the airport area. It's another part of the island with stunning high sea cliffs, beautiful area. Ubud, we obviously have an excursion to Ubud to take in that town on a formal level. Quite honestly, transportation there is relatively cheap. In fact, we have a driver that you can hire, and I think for the whole day, he's like $100. So if you get 4 people together, it's really very reasonable. And so I would recommend, if you're not already booked to Ubud, you consider going up there for the day. It's quite a sprawling town. So it's and given the humidity, there's quite a bit of walking that you need to do. But the shopping up there is amazing. The temples, the landscape, the rice paddies outside. So it's really a lovely part of the island. Screen has gone wonky on me. Here we go. The e-bike adventure that we have, which takes you up to the rice terraces, again, a lovely way to go because they go on some more of the side roads, like you see here, and it's a great way to really soak in the landscape. Lots more excursions, lots of things to do in Bali. So if you're staying for a month, good on you. You will enjoy every moment that you're there, but still have plenty of time to relax and just enjoy the warm weather and the surroundings and so on. I'll take any questions, and I know a couple have come in now, so I'll try to answer all the questions. Let me just see if I've missed anything from our. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention. Bali is generally very safe. There's hardly any danger here. People are very cool. That being said, uh, just always be aware. Pickpockets, phone snatchers, and so on. They can be anywhere in the world. So just be aware of your surroundings, particularly if you happen to be in a place that's particularly busy. I wouldn't, avoid displaying valuable items. Don't bring any valuable items in the first place, to be honest with you. You don't need it. But even your phone, the biggest object of desire amongst criminals these days is your phone. So that's just the one thing. We were talking about this on our webinar yesterday, which is if you attach it in one of those plastic pouches with a lanyard on it, put it around your neck. But what I wouldn't do is just leave it in your back pocket or in your side pocket if you have a light jacket or something like that, because that's just asking for it to be taken. You want to just be mindful and put it away. And otherwise, yeah, it says stick to well-lit and populated areas. Where you are is a well-lit populated area. It's completely safe. You can walk around anytime. It's not a problem. So yeah, just wanted to mention that about security. So okay, so Karen asked the question, how much is the visa and must it be paid in cash? So let me just double check that because I didn't have that document open. And I'll see all the information is in here in your pre-trip information documents, but I'm going to double check for you the current amount of the visa. Of course, it's right down at the bottom in alphabetical order. Visa, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you get the visa on arrival, I think there's no charge for it. If you get the e-visa, it will say online. Interestingly enough, here it doesn't even say on our document. So I think yeah, apologies for that. I can send a message out to everyone. I'll just reconfirm if there is a fee for the online for the e-visa in advance. I don't recall having paid for any visa last time I was there, but I was just there for less than 30 days. So can you get an e-visa in advance of arrival? Yes, indeed, you can. And again, if you refer to the pre-trip information document that we send out a while longer, if you scroll down to the bottom, it's in alphabetical order under visa. You can see that if you're staying in Bali for longer than 30 nights, so if you're on our trip and then you add pre or post nights like the Komodo adventure, then you need to get the 60-day e-visa in advance, and the website is there. It's pretty straightforward as far as e-visa sites go. You just need to have all your passport information, your address, and so on and so forth. So please refer to that document. All the details will be there. Susan asks, if you're going on to Komodo, can you leave a suitcase back in Sanur? Let me have a look at your itinerary here, because Sanur is my sense is boat trip. No, when you arrive back, you are not heading back to Sanur. So those of you going on the Komodo trip, if you look at the pre-trip information document, you're flying back on March the 14th. So you will be flying from Komodo Airport back to Bali at 3 in the afternoon. No, my apologies. You are staying overnight. You are going back to the hotel. My apologies. So yes, absolutely, you can leave a suitcase back in the hotel. We changed the configuration of this, in fact, to allow for that exact situation. So you're going down and coming back to Maya Sanur for one more night. So by all means, take a carry-on. You honestly don't need more than that. So that will alleviate any luggage issues. Are there any other forms that we need to complete prior to arrival? Prior to, no. Everything that you'll complete when you get there. And there is 2, if not 3 pieces of paper. They won't give them to you on the aircraft, at least not the last time that we traveled down there. But you will get them. You'll see it's a very chaotic but organized process. There'll be a visa on arrival desk. Then you'll get 3 forms. One of them is I think the health declaration, the customs declaration, and the immigration form. So, take a pen, take a pen so that you don't have to stand in line to get a pen. That's a good thing to have. But no, all of those things can be completed on arrival, and they tend to like to change these forms around a little bit. So, as much as we thought, oh, it'd be nice to get them in advance so people don't have to deal with them on arrival, but it's just not logistically feasible. So, but yeah, no, there's nothing else you need in advance. We're thankfully out of COVID, so all those formalities are now gone. So great questions, everyone. You still have a minute left to ask any more questions before we sign off. If something pops into your head 5 minutes from now, by all means, you can send us a message, drop a note to Paula as your first point of contact, or Aura if you've been dealing with Aura. Either way, no matter who you send a message to, we will make sure that we get your question answered. You're also welcome to Telegram Mara. If you haven't done so already, drop her a note, say, hey, Mara. She's obviously quite familiar with Bali, and she should be able to answer your question, or if not, she will get the answer for you. We obviously want to make sure that you have everything you need for this trip. Okay, that's it from me. I don't see any other questions. You're going to have a marvelous time. I am very excited for you that you're going on this trip. I was in Bali last year, and I could go every year. I think it's in a marvelous part of the world, and you'll have an amazing time. So have a good trip, safe trip. Happy New Year. I should have said that at the outset. And I hope to connect with you all personally at one of our social events, maybe this summer. Or maybe on a trip somewhere. So take care, everybody. Have yourselves a great evening and a good night. Sleep well. See you soon.